So how to write a master or PhD thesis? Of course, the structure is almost similar, but the content or the scale of the content is different. For master, it's different. For PhD, of course, it's different. Uh, so what is expected? What is expected once you have completed the lab work? Because most of us are on chemistry related project. But if you are doing something related to like uh, interviews, survey, okay, but I mean the structure is the same. Yeah, the way that we write report is the same. So what I can say is it is now the time that you write to show or to show evidence that you have completed what you have proposed before, and you try to answer your hypothesis. You have given the hypothesis during your proposal. It's like in a court, you are defending. Yeah? You are defending your hypothesis in front of a jury. Yes, a few members of a jury, let's say, because of course your thesis, your reports will be examined by the examiners, a series of examiners. So now you are trying to defend your work, right? You are trying to defend your work. So when you are defending your work, of course, you need evidence. Okay, you need evidence telling them that you have achieved your objective. Okay, so thesis is a formal document. The purpose of thesis is to prove that you have made an original contribution. Okay, definitely you have done the job. Okay, and then it is by you. It is not somebody that you have paid to to do the lab work and then write the thesis for you. Okay, so during viva session, this is when the examiners investigate, ask you questions to check on the originality. So when we talk about originality, we're not talking about it is a complete novel new project. Okay, I think I have justified what does it mean when we talk about novelty and originality at the beginning of our when we talk about proposal development. Okay, right? All right, we have talked about problems. So you can see that thesis is actually back to the research proposal that we have proposed at the beginning of our research. We talk a lot about justifying, refining the problem. Okay, so now you have identified the objective that how you manage to answer or to solve, to counter the problems. And now you have the data because you have carried out the work and you put it in a proper report as evidence. Yeah? Okay, it is back to what we have discussed before. Is on the problem itself. But based on the problem, the thesis will be evaluated whether the student has made an adequate contribution, whether the student convinced me that the question was adequately answered, okay, whether is it a good questions, and then what is actually the research question is. So these are among will be evaluated when the examiner is looking at the report. Yeah? So you can see all these questions we have discussed before. It is in your problem statement. It is in your literature review. Okay, what was known? What is your solution? Okay, and what is your expected result? What you think your results mean? Okay, this one also include data analysis. Okay, data interpretation. Okay, where and how further progress in the field can be made means that recommendation by you. Okay, so you can also suggest in thesis because you cannot cover all the scopes. Okay, you can do recommendation, yeah, for in thesis writing. Okay, this one, because this is very what we call as uh, relative, yeah. So the best is to talk to the supervisor, because supervisor is the one who has the experience, telling you whether the scope is enough or the scope is not enough. Okay, supervisor should be the best to talk about this. Style, okay, style again is not for us to discuss, because the style might change. So it is best when you start to write, to finalize the format, you should refer to UPM style of writing. Okay, I think it's downloadable from the SGS website. And the style of writing, the format, how the figure should be, how the caption should be, how the table should be. Okay, so those are things that you have to refer when you start to write your full report later. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about this, the structure, the format, because you need to read on UPM stuff. But what we're going to discuss is the gist of what should be chapter 1, chapter 2, and so on. Yeah? So chapter 1, definitely introduction. Just it is similar to proposal structure. You should have introduction, and what should be in introduction is we're not going to talk about abstract, because abstract usually I put it at the last section, and we can also discuss abstract using when we discuss scientific writing, because that is much more easier to talk. Also, table of content, we do not need to discuss this. Okay, so in introduction, what should be in introduction? Okay, so you can see the word hook here. We have discussed hook in presentation, yeah? Presentation skill. So how do you hook the audience? So in introduction, the purpose of having introduction is to hook the reader. You want to get the attention of the reader. Okay, so the reader will have the interest to continue reading. Of course, examiners have to read, because they have to fulfill their function as examiner. But let's say you want other people to read your thesis. You want them to read, so it must be interesting. Yeah? It must be interesting. The beginning of your thesis must be interesting. It's up to you. If you think that you just want to complete the report, and whether it is interesting or not, well, it's up to us. Okay, but of course we want to leave something, I mean, to have a good report, because this is yours, this is your project, and this is your writing. Okay, and when someone read it and saw your name, oh, this is a very good thesis. Okay, so I always say this to students. Okay, leave something good in UPM. This is your legacy. Okay, someone in future will open the thesis. Okay, and look at it. Okay, and then find it very interesting, and then he or she will see, oh, who wrote this. Okay, so this girl or this man is she, oh, I admire his or her style of writing. Okay, so leave something good. So if you leave something, a poor thesis, then when one day people read it, then it gives the impression of your to the reputation to your name. I mean, people will remember. Okay, this thesis is bad, and he or she read the name, so it's not good. Yeah? So try your best to have a good thesis. So if you really want people to get interested in with your writing, it's just like storybooks that some of you might love to read storybooks. So if it is a good storybooks, wonderful use of language, words, you of course attracted to read to the books until the end. But if it is not a good book, I mean, you will stop in the middle, right? Probably you don't even continue until the next pages because the writing was so poor. So you can just start by talking about the basic things, yeah, in introduction, similar to your proposal. But the language that you use, the story, the flow is what makes the difference. Yeah? All right. Okay, be sure to include a hook at the beginning of the introduction. Okay, if I ask you questions, I'm sure that most of you know what should be in the introduction. You should be talking about the background of the study, the content, a bit on the previous research, but then how to write it is the challenge. How to write it, how to put it on papers so it is interesting. Okay, you have the content, but how to put it in written form is a challenge. Okay, so that's why I when I teach this part, I'll be showing examples, the true examples of what, because I have to use my own students. Yeah, I cannot use students of others until marah pula supervisor. Okay. Right, so the next paragraph, what else belong in introductory sections of your paper? Of course, you should cite those who have the ideas or ideas first, and you should also cite those who have done the most recent and relevant work. It's not as comprehensive as chapter 2, which is the literature review, but at least give an idea for the reader. Okay, I understand what he or the author would like to say, that some work has been done on this particular field, but there is a gap, and you are trying to fill in this gap by using your proposed solution. Okay, and I buy okay that idea. Okay, that should be enough. That's what you want to have for chapter 1. And in chapter 1, okay, this one you can read: sufficient background, proper acknowledgement, explain the scope, is on the problem statement. Problem statement is in chapter 1. So I will be showing you. Okay, I'll stop share this one. We go to the example. Okay, just a moment. All right, so I hope that you can see it's big enough for you. Okay, so this is chapter 1. And I would like to tell about the project that he has done. Is on, because he's my student, so my work is more on biosensor. So this is on medical diagnostic method for dengue detection. Okay, you need to know about the title before I can show you what are the things that he has put inside his thesis. Okay, I'm showing you the example because this PhD student received distinction. Yeah? So distinction means that the thesis has been evaluated and only a very minor correction has to be done. And also for anyone to get distinction, most of the work done has to be published in good journals. Okay, so those are requirements to receive distinction. All right. Apart from, of course, be able to answer during Viva. So you can see that in background of study. So, so because he's talking about dengue, he's developing a detection method for dengue. So for the introduction, he did introduce on the how serious the dengue cases in Malaysia as well as the whole world. Okay, okay, you can see the words. Okay, so if you are good at words, it's actually very easy to write. If you're good at words, if you have trouble writing it down, then you'll find that writing thesis is a troublesome. Okay, so he talks about dengue. All right, remember that thesis has to go through similarity checks. Okay, you know already. So it's not like you can just copy and then paste it. Okay, it has to be your storyline. So you talk about types of eddies. Okay, so and then because he wants to justify that the diagnostic tool for there are problem in diagnostic tool already established for dengue virus detection. So he talked about the current one, there are serology tests and this one, okay. And he highlighted that these existing diagnostic assays possess drawbacks. Huh? Okay, so that is what in chapter 1. And because he's doing DNA-based biosensor, so he talked about a bit on DNA, okay, the principle of how DNA biosensor works, okay. Not too much, okay, you can see not too much, but enough to introduce to the reader. Okay, a bit more, showing that what people have done on nucleic acid or DNA-based biosensor. Okay, it's like, again, it's not too much because you're going to be do a comprehensive one in chapter 2, which is a literature review. Okay, and he's using nanomaterial to increase sensitivity for the biosensor. So that's why you can see that he wrote about nanomaterial as well. Okay. Okay. All right, and then a bit of his comment on the previous study. Okay. So you can see that before, all right, because he's planned to use, he not planned, he used silicon nanowires as the nanomaterial he proposed to use. So you can see that he now the story now more focused on talking about silicon nanowires. So back to problem statements. Problem statement has to be in in chapter 1, introduction part. And so we have talked a lot on development of problem statement. Okay, the problem is because the current diagnostic for dengue virus is not yet at that moment. But not now. Now you have a lot of diagnostic kit, but previously it was still based on serology tests, molecular tests. So he highlighted that this test is time consuming. The sample has to be taken back to labs. So you do not have a very rapid diagnostic. Yeah? All right. And then he talked about the tedious steps of the analysis, especially molecular and serology as well, where you have to withdraw bloods and take the bloods to the sample. Okay, but nowadays we have a lot of diagnostic kits to overcome these issues. Okay, and ultra sensitive DNA electrochemical sensor. Okay, because this is what he proposed. Okay, so to answer the above issues, okay, so he proposed DNA electrochemical sensors that actually simplify the molecular test. molecular tests, if any of you are familiar, they are using PCR. So there are quite a number of steps involved, no? Right? So he also simplify in the present study means that what he has done, he talks about, okay, he did silicon and wires decorated with gold nanoparticles, modified electrode to increase sensitivity. Okay, he taught also the utilization of silicon, why he used silicon nanowires, because of the surface area, biocompatibility. All right. So if you are doing something on chemistry, because these students, the field of study is specifically sensor technology. So you can see that your problem statement should be based on what is your field of study. Okay, so because you're doing master by course, so it's not really a big issue. But for those who are doing master by research or PhD by research, when they graduate, they will be based on what field of study. So if your field of study is chemistry, let's say, then the problem should be more towards the chemistry, the fundamental of chemistry. So for this guy, because he is under the field of study sensor technology and sensor material, so you can see that he's talking more about the sensor. Yeah, the problem statement is more on the sensing ability rather than the chemistry, the fundamental. So that must be right. Okay, this part, novelty of research, you can do it or you do not need to put it in your thesis. Yeah? But if you wish to highlight what is new, elements that you have proposed, you have done in your thesis work, then you can do that. Yeah? It's easier because that helps the reader, actually, the examiner, to identify the novelty, because this is one of the criteria that we have to evaluate the novelty of the research. Okay, so in chapter 1 as well, we have to write the objective. Okay, so you can see that, well, you can have different style, but for me, I usually, because this is my students, I prefer a general objective first, followed by specific objective. Okay, we have discussed a lot on the type of words that you can use to write objective. So it should be measurable. So you can see that some of the words that he has chosen is not really measurable. For example, to enhance. When I say measurable, is you should be able to answer. For example, to prepare and characterize. So by the end, how do you answer to people? How do you tell people, I have prepared? There must be a, what do you call, a milestone. Okay, so the milestone here is I have a result showing that I have prepared and characterized the silicon nanowires, gold nanoparticles, blah, blah, for the application of dengue virus. Means that I have the evidence showing that I have prepared and characterized this. Okay, so what are the evidence? So if it is electrochemical technique, then I have to show the electrochemical data related to the modified electrode. Okay, and sometimes we also have to put morphological data, means that to evidence that the silicon nanowires core nanoparticle is actually on top of the electrode, showing that there is evidence on. We cannot just say. So to prepare is acceptable. It's acceptable for measurable word. To enhance, sometimes it's difficult to measure. How do you say to enhance? How do you measure enhance? Unless you want to achieve certain level of enhancement. Okay, let's say you want to achieve current enhancement until 90% increment. Okay, that should be measurable. Okay, to optimize. Okay, Optimize is acceptable for measurable words, but when you put optimize, you must have in your mind what kind of optimization. Okay, so for those who are in this area, for example, I'm the examiner, so I know what kind of optimization, and I will know what are the evidence, yeah, when people say optimize. Okay, so that's why examiners supposed to be from the experts. Yeah? So it should be measurable to optimize. Okay, the word evaluate is very difficult to measure. Okay, so I would suggest not to use evaluate, because sometimes how do you measure evaluates? Okay, the word optimize, I think, is quite easy rather than to evaluate. So try your best to think about the words, suitable words. Okay. Okay, scope and limitation, you can have it in chapter 1, or you do not want to have it, is fine. Okay, it does not have to be there. Okay, it does not have to be there. Right. So you can see that for chapter 1 is only, this is a full thesis, yeah, not dissertation. You can see just 8 pages. So usually chapter 1 is 8 to 12 pages. So if you doing just short dissertation, you can just downscale. Okay, you can downscale the the pages, of course. Right? So question on chapter 1. Any question? Okay, so if you have question for chapter 1, or you suddenly remember something to ask, just stop me, yeah? Right? So let's continue to chapter 2. Right? Okay, so chapter 2 is literature review. What you have done in your proposal. Okay, so we have talked about it. Okay, we have talked that literature review should be comprehensive. Okay, and you have done the assignment. Okay, so here I would like to talk about your assignment a bit. Okay, it's not that as at the beginning of this course I said that I'm not going to really evaluate. So the purpose of this course is not to really uh, evaluate you just like any other courses. The purpose of this course is to provide skill for you, yeah? To provide enough skill for you to kickstart a research, okay, and to write the report. Yeah? So some are good. Okay, some needs to be improved in a form of written form, the literature review. But as I said, at this moment, okay, but try to improve the writing, the literature writing when it is at your report stage. Yeah? So literature review must be in a story form, yeah? Not point form. Yeah? Literature review, as I said, is not a summary, but it's a story. When I say story, you read all the journals, related journals, you read everything. So literature review is like telling back after you read 4 or 5 journals, 10 journals. You tell the story in a paragraph form, and then you talk about the good and the bad. What people have done, whether they have done a good job. Okay, but the bad thing. Okay, what's the weaknesses of this finding? So it's a story. Once you read all these 10, it's not like, okay, you read the first journal and you summarize the second journal, you summarize. That is for you to keep. That information for you to keep for your because you need to refer back. But when you write literature review, it's not that. It's the one that is expected is for you to digest the information of the 10 journals, and you write the story based on what you obtain, the information that you obtain from the 10 journals. Okay, you write a review. Okay, I remember saying before review, just like you are reviewing food. if you if you read about review on food, on tourism, like hotels or certain countries, okay. So what do they tell? They tell about the good things. They tell about the bad things. There are some good things, but there are some minus uh, bad things about that place. Okay, so all in all, it's worth your money or it's not worth your money. Okay, so that kind of review is also similar to this literature review. Okay, all right. So where did okay? This is the basic that we have discussed. What is already known about this problem? What are the methods that have been tried to solve it? And these are very good tips. Yeah. So you should organize your literature from the beginning. Means that you can start to write your literature from now on. From now, you should make notes about important papers. I think I told you before that you must be able to get back to the papers. Where is the resource? Okay, and summarize this paper. So summarize this papers is for you to keep. Yeah, it's not for the one who you write the literature. Use the summarize is for you to remember. Okay, these are the points that I have obtained from journal A. These are the points that I have obtained from journal B. Okay, but that is not the style of literature review writing. So let's continue to look at the examples back. Right. Okay. Right. So I hope you can see the literature review chapter 2. Okay. Okay, you can see that now he also talks about, he also writes about dengue fever in the introduction, but now, of course, it's not so much on the introduction side. But now, chapter 2, he has written a more comprehensive one, comprehensive information on dengue. So you can see literature review should be written according to focus, sections. So the first section he has chosen not to say sections, focus. So the first is he talks about dengue in general. He talks about dengue in general, but trying to tell people that is a major health problem. So he has read all these journals, okay, read all these journals. So he crunched the numbers, digest the knowledge, and put it now in his own words, talking about the issue of dengue. Okay, of course, you cite, you quote someone else. Okay, you can see that the history of dengue. So it's more detailed. And then he goes down talking about the virus, dengue virus as a cause of the dengue fever, because in the end, he would like to tell the readers that he's doing something on diagnostic of a dengue virus. So these are informations about the dengue virus. Okay, why? Because the important is this information. This information is important because in the end, he will be detecting a DNA of the virus. Okay, that's why this has to be in the thesis. Talking about the genome, the molecular part of the virus. Okay. Okay. Okay, you can see that it's not summary. So you can see that this information is obtained from a few journals. If it is a summary, it might be okay, one journal, one story, one journal, one story. Okay, so that is not the correct way of doing literature. Okay, all right. These are all information on the dengue virus. And then again, the methods, okay, diagnostic methods of dengue virus. Okay, similar with introduction, but now it's more comprehensive. Okay, you can see, okay, the a few journals talking about the serology analysis from patients' serum. And let's say if you have a lot, if you have a lot of journals on that particular focus, there are too many. So you can list it in a table form. Okay. Okay, this is let's say if you're doing diagnostic, okay, for example, okay, the good and the bad, okay, okay, characteristic. This is very good information. Okay, early diagnosis. Okay, no, this one, not this table. There's another table. Okay, this is more on the information with the virus. We need to go a bit faster. Okay, different types. We have antigen detection. Okay, comparison of dengue diagnostic based on protein. Because NS1 is antigen protein detection. Okay, these are commercial kits. Okay, right. And then we have genomic detections. We also have some commercial kits. I think so. All right, let's move on. Commercial, this is again a serological immuno-based analysis. Okay, and then this is because you want to justify your proposal. So he mentioned about the advantage and disadvantages. Okay, this come from him, means that all from all the reading that he has done, he concludes the advantages and disadvantages of the diagnostic methods. Okay, and make comparisons. So from there, he justify that alternative, okay, a biosensor is a good alternative to trying to neutralize all these disadvantages, to counter, neutralize. Okay, and talking about the principle of biosensors, you can see that because he's focusing on DNA or nucleic acid-based biosensor, that's why you have it here. The principle, all the important factors related to DNA biosensors. Okay, and let's move on. We have quite a number. Okay, structure of nucleic acids. Okay, right, because it's important to understand if we are doing DNA biosensors, it's important. This is important information. Okay, the structure. And then examples of what people have done on electrochemical, DNA or nucleic acid biosensor. So you can see that from the general, now he's going on towards more specific. Okay. So now he's becomes more specific on the issues involved in immobilization strategies. In this case, for the biomarker to be immobilized on the sensor. Okay, move on. All right. Okay, because there are introduction of nanomaterial, so of course it has to be there. Okay. So you can see the number of journals involved for him to tell a story about nanomaterials. Okay. All right. I think there are around how many pages in the Okay, let's just scroll down. Okay, you can see we talk about mechanism, right, until the end. Let's move faster. Silicon nanowires, because involves silicon nanowires. Okay, he did RSM, so he's the one that is going to talk about RSM, hopefully, response surface methodology. Yeah? Because in order to optimize, instead of doing more lab works, you can do optimization by using software. Okay. So that's why RSM is here. So you can see 69 pages for chapter 2. Okay, just now is 8 pages for chapter 1. So for me, very important, you do not put all informations, all textbook material. Let's say you want to talk about DNA, so you put all information on DNA. No, you do not need to do that, because of course that's easy. That makes your thesis very thick, but that is not required. What you need to do is to put enough information that is related to your work. Enough information. You should be able to evaluate whether the information is enough or not. Okay, right. The last one for today, okay, now is 3:20, is on chapter 3. Yeah? So chapter 3, I think chapter 3 is the easiest. Okay, chapter 2 is difficult. Of course, chapter 4, which result in discussion, is the heart of the thesis, is difficult. But chapter 3 is telling what you have done. It's just telling the protocols, the procedures. It's like writing a manual. So if you have followed the protocol, correct protocol, then I think there is no issue about the method section. It's just that how detailed that you should go. So in method section of a thesis is information to allow the reader to assess the believability, the believability of your results. Okay, so even though it seems easy, but method section is the one that people will evaluate whether you have done it correctly or you have missed the major point. So information chapter method chapter also information needed by another researcher to replicate your experiment. It's not the copy. But in order for us to improve, let's say, of course, we have another researcher will be continuing the work. And in order to do that, he or she has to refer to your thesis, for example. Okay? Description of material, procedure, and theory. Sometimes you do not need a detailed theory, just a brief theory. How do you calculate? Technique, procedure, equipment, and calibration. Limitation, assumption, and range of validity. Sometimes these are not required. Okay, I will show, of course, the example. Okay, so when we talk about someone in future, can he or she accurately replicate your study? So in order to do that, method section, chapter 3, has to be detailed. Okay, you cannot write a very brief one, and then expect the reader or the examiner to just understand. Okay, understand. It has to be detailed. Whatever that you have done, it has to be there. Okay, it has to be written in a standard form, of course, and it must be detailed. Let's say I will show example in the thesis. Yeah, could another researcher accurately find and reoccupy the sampling station? Okay, is there enough information provided about any instrument, okay, used, so that functionally equivalent instrument could be used to repeat experiment? Okay, So you can understand this if I show you the example. Citation in this section should be limited to data sources. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's look at the results. Okay. Sorry, the method section. Share screen. Right. So I hope that you can see this chapter 3. You can see that you have to declare uh, the materials, the reagents that you used. So in this case, because he's using some bio-related materials, so he has to declare from which company, from which resources, and you can cite previous work if you adopt their method and then you improve. So you need to cite. Okay, so which is from this company. So from there I know, because I'm this field, so I know that the first base is a good company. Then if he or she obtained from that company, means that the material is reliable. Okay, so here I evaluated whether the material, the biomaterial is correct. Okay, and you can see that the chemicals, the purity, the standard of the chemicals. Of course, if you see sigma, then you are happy because it's expensive and usually is a good good chemicals. But if you cannot get from sigma because it's expensive, so make sure the purity and the type of whether it's hydrous and hydrous is correct. Okay. And now you can also look at, okay, this is common chemicals. Okay, and then you can see that we have to detail out where did you get the dengue virus. Okay, and let's say, for example, here, okay, these are instrumentation. Of course, you have to declare the brand, the model, because this information is related to reliability of the data obtained, right? The setup, yeah. So if you find it difficult to put it in words and you think that the reader will not be understand fully, you can assist the reader by drawing diagrams. So you can see that you can have photos in the method section. You can have schematic diagrams so that people read it, have a better idea. If it is just in text form, sometimes it's difficult to understand. So you might have a lot of explanation to be done during your Viva. But if you write it well and you assist it with a good diagrams, then you have, I mean, it makes the reader easy to understand. Then you might have a easier Viva Viva session. Okay. So apparatus, you do not need actually to put ultrasonic bath. Okay, it's just a major instruments. You do not need to put a pH meter, water bath. Okay, these are common. Hot plate, you do not need to put that. Okay, purposes, sometimes you do not need to put, okay, the purposes of the instrumentation is enough, just model and brands. Okay, preparation of general solution. So since in the thesis, it has been done, so it's a past tense. Yeah? Where you can see the words in past tense. Okay, so you can see how detailed the explanation. Yeah? For example, the preparation of ferrocyanide. Okay, so you can see that the molarity, the percentage, the concentration units are all there. You cannot just say ferrocyanide solution is prepared. Okay, you cannot just say that. It has to be detail. You have to talk about uh, the, the, the detailed protocols or procedures used to prepare the solution. Okay, so this is method section, very important to be detailed. All right, you can see that when you say, for example, 30%, so you have to tell 30%, is it volume per volume, or is it mass per volume, or is it mass over mass percentage? And the name of the chemicals must be correct, the unit must be correct. Okay. So you can see here he cited the researchers because the preparation is using their is adopting their method. So if you have any, for example, improvement, then you could just add with a minor adjustment or minor improvement. Okay. Okay, you can see that the preparation in here, talking about the preparation of gold nanoparticles, yeah? How detailed he mentioned about the preparation. So it has to be, you can see the gold was kept at 4 degrees before being used. So it has to be there, the information, and the molarity of the gold nanoparticles can be estimated, because you cannot really calculate the molarity, but it can be estimated. Now, let's say if you have this is what I meant by the detail how you declare the resources. For here, because we do not have the dengue virus in UPM, so we work closely with someone in USM, okay, USM Kubang Krian. So we declare that the samples are from someone else, from which department, and we mention the name of the researcher. So that is very important in method section, is to declare clearly the material resources as well as the method being used and the instruments also. Okay. All right. Okay. This one, according to the what you have done. Okay. So this, because this is PhD thesis, there's a quite number of protocols involved. And this, try your best if you have the flow of chapter 3 should be similar to chapter 4. Yeah, we should have that when you are writing thesis, because that will help the readers a lot. Because if you structured the chapter 3 different with chapter 4, means that if I have questions on, let's say I'm the examiner, if I have question on the chapter 4 results and I want to refer back to chapter 3, the methods, if you arrange the information not similar, means that the alignment is, what do you call the alignment? The structure is not similar, then I have difficulties trying to get the information from chapter 3. So you have to do the arrangement of chapter 3. The information should be similar. If you're talking about, let's say 3.5, the flow is on UV, then you know where to put the UV results in chapter 4. It should be at the same stage. Okay, let us go very fast until if we find something interesting. Okay, so you can see that the method section can also be assisted with schematic diagram. Okay, so in here, for example, he's talking about the modification of the electrode. So it's easier for the reader to understand. Okay, of course, you have silicon nanowires modified with amine, and after that you have gold nanoparticles. It's easier for the reader to understand, even though you have describe it in text form, but assisting with a schematic is very helpful. So the one thing about this guy, this is very good in drawing. I was very impressed with her, with his drawing skill. So you can see, you can also assist the reader by having a flow chart. Even though that you have to write the protocols, but to summarize, to help the reader understand, to follow, okay, this is the flow chart for the preparation of the modified electrodes. Okay, it's not the end, but it's by stages. This is for the modified electrodes only. Even though the information is already there, the detail, but then this is to assist the reader. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Okay. You can see another schematic diagrams. Okay. So you should have these skills in order to write a good report, how to draw. Okay, let me quickly and okay, you can see that this is this is very nice for me because I'm very bad in drawing. Okay, so it's 99 pages for chapter 3. Okay. Okay, any question on chapter 3? Okay, any question for any chapters?